terms of the UIU Award, this has been a monthly thing that we implemented this year. Essentially, this award is for outstanding character here at Maspeth High School and students that have demonstrated what a true Maspeth High School student look like. And so these awards are given by nominations by teachers, and then teachers then vote upon these students to receive this award. And so tonight we actually only have 2 recipients that are here. Excuse me, Jessie Lee also was an award winner. Last minute, she realized it was his brother's birthday tonight and had a birthday dinner, and so she wasn't here to the award, but we sure will have it for her and present it to her. And so maybe at the next PTA, even though obviously it was the January one, we can still present to her with that actual award. So first up, our first recipient of the award is actually the first 9th grade student to receive this. And her name is Caitlin Maldonado. So come on up. All right, congratulations. Way to go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we're going to take an awkward picture together.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Nice. Yeah, do you have anything you'd like to say on behalf?
Oh, okay.
So these aren't working, so you are going to have to try to project your voice this way.
Okay. I want to say thank you for whoever nominated me and all the people who voted for me, and how much I appreciate being able to have a place where I can learn and communicate with others and be able to have a safe space. That's it.
The next recipient is a senior here at Maspeth High School. I know this individual personally, and he really is a fantastic man, Mr. Jesse Morales. Yeah. Congratulations, man. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the crowd? Thank you. That's it for me for this month. I'm sure we'll be back again. Yep, Barbara.
I would like to bring up and remind parents that this week is Spirit Week. It's been super successful. Tomorrow is Tropical Day. So have your kids break out their tropical gear, dress down, bring it to school, and participate in Spirit Week. Also, homecoming tickets are on sale in school. The kids are encouraged to come. It should be a nice evening of getting dressed up. It's from 6 to 9. You can reach out to Ms. Costinas or Ms. Healy for tickets. The next report is the treasurer report, and that is by Marina.
Yeah, that's not working. Good evening, everyone. To be honest with you, nothing's changed. Our numbers are still pretty much the same, being that our last PTA meeting, we only collected 150. And then we had one event where we collected about $91. And so we're at $5,082.23. So we're hoping to do much better in the next few months because we're coming to the next marking period soon. Good night, guys. Thank you.
So when Marina refers to we collected at our meeting, we ask that every parent who has a student in Maspeth High School is a member of our PTA. So if you have a student that comes to school here and is thriving or is getting extra help so that they can be successful, if you belong to our school community, you're a part of our PTA. And we try our best to be at every event and participate, wrestling being just a very small example, but we are at our throwback dance. We've been at our volleyball fundraisers. We're asking that you make the minimum contribution of $20 per student. If that is too much, we ask that if you can give us $3, it's something, because it goes directly back to your child. We find a way, we help the clubs, we help our sports programs, we get involved in our events. The money that we collect here also goes towards teacher appreciation and senior week. So again, I like to encourage you, if you haven't already done so, please pick up a PTA contribution envelope. We also ask that you give us some of your time. Giving back some service to our school community is a great way to show your children that you're invested in what they're doing and what we're doing in this building. Next up on our our agenda, I'm going to ask our language interpretation expert, is that what I would call you? Samantha Hoffman. She's going to come and speak to us about
Helping our English included.
So I'm Ms. Hoffman. I'm the English as a New Language teacher, and I'm also the language access coordinator at our school. So as the language access coordinator, I'm a resource and a point person for our non-English speaking parents so that they can be part of our school community as well. And one of our ongoing goals has always been parent engagement and involving our parents in our school community. So every year we're given a set amount of funding for parent engagement, and that includes for resources for translation, interpretation. And so the money has to be allocated by March. So I reached out to Barbara this week to start thinking about how the PTA might want to use some of this money. Some of it might go to our parent-teacher conferences in March. But how also the PTA could benefit and could use the resources that the DOE has for translation and for interpretation. So we have interpretation that could be used in meetings where a person from one of our DOE services would come. They would have headsets. Maybe a flyer could go out and that could be translated through the translation and interpretation unit. Or it could be outsourced, which would be done more quickly with another DOE vendor. So flyers can be translated. We could have someone here. So I just wanted to make you aware of these resources and then to have the PTA maybe start brainstorming how they might want to use them. So currently, according to data collected this year, we have 38% of our parent population communicates in a language other than English. And the top three languages are Spanish is about 24%, Polish is 3%, and Chinese is like about 5.5%. So Spanish is definitely the most dominant language. And it is, 38% not communicating in English is a good percentage of our parent population. So that's really all I have. And I just want to make you aware. And then any things that you start to think of as an organization, Barbara can reach out to me and we can figure out maybe what could be best ways to use this money. That's it.
And our last agenda topic will be our SAPIS coordinator. Her name is Tara Meager. And Dawn is our chairperson on the Committee for Healthy Living. So they're going to take the floor, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
All right. Well, before as Tara gets set up here, we call it SAPIS. What SAPIS means is the Substance Abuse Prevention and Intervention Specialist. She just joined the school about 3 months ago, and she's very involved in the issues that are coming up with our students regarding vaping, other stuff that's going on. She comes with 10 years of experience both for education, special education, and mental health issues. So with that, I'll leave it to her. And then after that, we're going to do a Q&A. So we'd like everyone to ask questions, especially young kids. If you're here, if you're below 18, we want to you can ask some questions. Okay?
All right, so hi everyone, nice to meet you. Again, my name is Tara Muger. I'm the SAPIS counselor here at Maspeth High School. So to kind of explain what SAPIS is, because it is brand new to Maspeth High School, so SAPIS stands for Substance Abuse Prevention Intervention Specialist Counselor. So my program is funded through OASAS, which is the Office of Addiction Services and Supports. SAPIS started back in 1971 in response to a growing awareness of the dangers of youthful alcohol and substance abuse. Substance abuse prevention and intervention networks are in most New York City schools. Although I'm brand new to MASPIT, this has been around for years and years and years. SAPIS counselors use innovative approaches to programs that have empowered and motivated students to redirect their lives. So my role here at MASPIT is prevention services. It's aimed at building and reinforcing positive attitudes through in-class lessons. So pretty much I do in-class push-ins, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, group therapy, one-to-one intervention services. So far, I have started with my freshman classes, pushing in to all of their health classes with the curriculum evidence-based practice. My services are designed to give students the skills necessary to resist using drugs and alcohol, while the emphasis is placed pretty much on instilling coping mechanisms and things that they can do within themselves, to remain substance-free. My program also focuses on identifying students who may need individual counseling and referrals. So we have Catholic Charities here in-house. So I'll make referrals for students who need, one-to-one therapy, or through our outreach program, which is inpatient, outpatient, substance abuse, and alcohol use services. So ways that I reach the students is pretty much through my in-class push-ins and through my therapies. I use evidence-based programs, presentations, workbooks, worksheets, videos, questions and answers, homework assignments, talk therapy, and group work. Each curriculum I use varies in session length, topic to reach each specific at-risk group and target population. My referral students are individually assessed 1 to 3 times typically, and then I place them within specific skill groups for talk therapy and evidence-based programs. I pretty much really hold my students accountable. This is a huge part of what I do. If a student feels that he or she is struggling, I encourage them to see me or they refer to me through teams, social workers, other counselors, and they are given program guidelines. The motto that I use is nothing changes if nothing changes. So if my students come to me and they want to see results in themselves remaining substance-free, they have to change their lifestyle. We talk about avoiding high-risk situations, such as being hungry, lonely, or tired. Those things are at risk for substance abuse. We utilize and talk about tools and coping mechanisms. I reach out to my students and let them know that if they want to be successful, they have to show up to groups and to class, and also planting the seed. So when I do my in-class push-ins, every single student isn't stressing out or worrying about substance abuse or use, but it's planting the seed for all students to learn ways to help themselves. So some upcoming events and school-wide events that I have are February 14th is No One Eats Alone Day. So Mr. Pastor and I were talking about potentially setting up a chopped salad table, initiating health and wellness for all students. April is Alcohol Awareness Month, and May 12th to 18th is National Prevention Week. So I encourage parents to get involved and, and helping me with creating fun things for students to get everyone involved in these upcoming events in terms of mental health, positivity, and substance abuse. And that's it. So does anybody have any questions about SAPIS?
So I know it's a little done, but can I ask you something? Let's say I'm cleaning up my son's jacket, and all of a sudden one of these vaping machines come out. What should I do? Should I report them to the police? Report them to you?
Definitely encourage them to me as a SAPIS counselor in school, but it's more so having the conversation as to why they are using nicotine. Most of the time, it's because of peer pressure, teen pressure. A lot of people are vaping. It's huge, it's easily accessible, and it is a coping mechanism. So it's important for parents to have the conversations with their children as to why they're choosing this, figuring out why they're using it.
So should I be mad with them, or should I say, hold myself in, or how should the communication would be? Tell me, you just caught me when you say this. What's in our line you would use?
I feel like an initial reaction for a parent to find their child with a smoking device, it's going to be anger. But I would direct maybe them seeing me in school, and then we can also have a meeting, all 3 of us together, to figure out like a healthy way that we can achieve success and deal with stress and anxiety without using nicotine products.
Okay. Questions? Come on, you have to have a question.
Yes.
How is marijuana handled, given the trend of legalization throughout the country?
So how is it handled within our school?
Like, some of the child asked me about it, something being found. A narcotic like let's say crack is oh, it's a no-no, this is all the negative aspects about it. But then you've got something like marijuana where, at first it was an off topic and this is not a good thing, but you have a lot of states now that are legalizing it and it's coming, it's becoming more.
Of course. So majority of the students that I do see are active marijuana users within this school as well as everywhere. Also, the stigma around it is becoming more of like a positive thing. Even some doctors are recommending it to help deal with anxiety and stress. But to bring it back to teens, we kind of talk about how the brain develops and how their brains aren't fully developed until the age of 21. So we talk about the risks with using marijuana at such a young age and the things that it can affect and the negative ways it will affect their future if they continue their use.
So can you tell me what are signs that we as parents can say, I think my son may be in some kind of addiction? What are signs that can help us?
Okay, so some signs pretty much will be the change in your child in terms of their friend groups, their isolation, their interest in things might decrease. So they might have had a love for art and animals, but now that they're using substances, it changes. So students who are using become a little bit more introverted to themselves. They might come home and just shut the door, not want to be part of the family. So that's some of the early warning signs of use.
Okay. Can that be misled as maybe just teenage age, because
Yeah.
they get moody sometimes? I got 4 boys, so I got 4 different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
How do you distinguish between that moodiness or just teenage stuff?
Well, that goes back to parenting. Parents have to have the conversation with their children if they are suspecting it, and also random drug tests. They sell drug tests in Walgreens where if you suspect that your child is using substances, threaten them with a drug test. If they say, no, I don't want to do this, that's kind of like a sign where they're afraid that it will be positive. So.
Come on, this is your time. Any other questions before I go into my next one?
What kind of evidence-based curriculums that you use?
Yes.
MRT, CBT, more recognition, or cognitive?
Yeah, we do use CBT, but it's mostly curriculum-based, like life skills programs, reduce, reuse curriculum, all different types of like educational curriculums that come from OSS for us to implement.
Depression. How do we know our kids are going through a depression, a tough time, or feel the pressures? How do we know that it's a sign of depression?
It depends. Like every student who goes through depression is different. It could be changes in their eating habits, their sleeping habits. It could be all different types of things. And if you notice that your child is becoming depressed and withdrawn, it's important to schedule an appointment with your primary care physician, and they'll be able to, help you out a little bit more in terms of dealing with things like that.
Being with 4 boys, I sometimes wonder if they're depressed or they're just moody, or it's always hard to distinguish between one or the other. And, so your door is really open to us as parents. Let's say we want to come to you. We don't want to give our clues to my son that I'm coming here, but are you open just to me alone?
Yeah, of course. So at the back table, I have my information, my office number, my extension, as well as my email and all the things that I do here at Maspeth. So you can reach me at any time. We can schedule an appointment, just parent and counselor. And then if we want to invite the student, we can invite the student and go from there.
So your classes, are they, you deal with freshmen? Have you dealt with seniors at all?
Not yet. So being that I just started in October, I'm only through my first cycle of freshman classes, and I'm moving on to the rest of the grades after February break.
So gathering the 9th graders, what's one thing you've learned about them and their development?
That pretty much every single one is different, truthfully, but a lot of them are similar. They're going through a lot in terms of peer pressure, adjusting to and transitioning from middle school to high school. A lot of communication with families and, expressing boundaries. They want to have all this freedom because they see like the older kids within our school having freedoms, and they want all that stuff as well. But I always resort back to, you're freshmen, you guys are teenagers. You have to respect your parents, and open communication is really important. I stress communication with them as well as with their parents and their teachers is crucial, because it's shaping them to be advocates and also expressing their wants and needs in a healthy way.
Questions? So my child is growing up. As it get older and older, you know, what resource do you think we have as parents? Is there a resource you think we should use? A website that it can give us the guidance on being better teenage parents?
Well, there are like different types of parenting seminars that you can attend if you literally just Google it. But through outreach, I have the information up in the back.
Okay.
They do parent trainings, skills trainings, things that can help you to, kind of like express or better your parenting skills as you have high schoolers.
I tell you, I thought I mastered the 1 through 12 years old. I'm an expert. Changed diapers, I was good. I was fast, and it was a great time raising kids like that. And then became teenagers. I'm like, oh my God, they're just complete different animals.
Mm-hmm.
So what's one provoking way I can get my child to talk to me? Like, for example, if I tell them, hey, how was school? What's the kind of response we get?
Good.
Yeah. I mean, you can have open communication with their teachers if they're not willing to really express. Then once you have communication with the teachers, you kind of know what's been going on in the classrooms and you can relate to them in that way. So that's another way of like having, the conversation.
So asking teachers, hey, I'm going to go to see your teacher because that's all you tell me is good.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's going to ask them more questions?
It could be, or just having communication like with their teachers to know what's going on. So when you start the conversation, you already have knowledge that you can bring up like, oh, hey, how was your test today? Or how did that presentation go? Or do you need help with your research paper that's due next week?
I see.
Just being involved in all aspects of your students' lives. I know teachers, they are busy throughout the day, but I know they do communicate through email.
Yep.
So that's always ways to be involved in your students' day-to-day activities.
Could I just add something in too? So yeah, I know kids often do say good, fine, okay. So one thing I see at Maspeth is there's so many kids involved in clubs and sports. It's kind of insanely rich with that. So that's something I talk to the kids about because I see the kids in an informal way in the library. It's like, oh, you're on the wrestling team. Like, yeah, and then I can't shut them up usually. And then there's other clubs that they might be in. So that's one thing I try to do with the kids here is like, oh, what are you doing in that history project?
It's funny you say that because the one way I can get my 12-year-old to talk to me is about his not his Fortnite now. His Fortnite is apparently old. Other games, Thank you. Thank you very much. See, that's why we need teachers to be. But it's if I ask them about some of the videos, and they'll talk a storm out of me, and of course it's all French to me. But you're right. It's talking their language is one thing. The concept of video games. Does video games lead to depression or any negative behaviors? I mean, again, I know you may not be an expert, but what are your thoughts?
I'm not an expert in all areas of mental health, but from what I do know, gaming addiction is something real and it is relevant. So there's ways to, if this child feels like they are addicted to games and it becomes a part of their life to the point where they can't do anything else besides think about games, there's counseling for that. There's special therapies through outreach that can help with gaming addiction.
So you're saying that, so my son is 4 hours on a game, would you classify as that as an addiction?
I'm not a doctor, so I can't really.
I apologize. I don't mean
that. But if you are noticing that it is a problem, like within the home, where it's like you can't get your child off of the game, it can potentially lead to an issue. I know that some parents do a thing where like they'll allow their child to be on the game for 2 hours and they have to get off the game. They might even remove it from their room. It might cause behaviors, it might cause fights, but it is something as a parent that you have to do, especially if it's limiting their use, but it's for a positive cause. In the long run, they will thank you for it.
Yes, go ahead. Wait, I'm sorry. I apologize. Can I just ask her? Yeah.
So if a parent is concerned for whatever reason, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, gaming addiction, they can call you and have you kind of speak to their child?
Yeah,
or
definitely.
Are the children in the school aware that you're in the building?
So they are aware that I'm in the building. They are slowly getting acclimated to me being here. Instead of thinking of me as like, oh, the substance abuse counselor, I'm scared of her. It's going to be something that's more positive. I've only been here for 3 months, so it's something that's still brand new. It takes years sometimes for someone like me to actually fully develop within the school setting. So pretty much everyone does know who I am. They know what my services are. But if you feel that your child doesn't really know who I am yet, and you would like for me to do a brief intervention, of course, contact me and there'll be a child that I will see.
This is great. Sorry, go ahead.
If a child is addicted to whatever it is, alcohol, games, whatever, I'm presuming they're enjoying their addiction.
Mhm.
How do you get them to see that it's a behavior that needs to end?
Well, what we do within my therapy sessions is we kind of talk about real life situations and what happens to people if they continue this this negative lifestyle, and how it will not end up positive. So that's what we will do in terms of counseling services. But at the same time, each child is on their unique journey, and at times they have to figure it out for themselves. Like whether it's a couple of months of, being so involved in games or being involved in drugs, they'll slowly realize that this is affecting my life in a negative way. And that's what therapy session is for, as well as outreach services.
Do you reach out to parents if you see if you have any concerns?
So everything within my office is confidential, but if it is a concern to the point where it's, extenuating circumstances where they are coming to school every single day high, they want to harm themselves, they want to harm other people, then there is parent involvement. But a lot of the time, most of the time it's confidential within my office. So I will not involve parents in every single thing, but it is when it's really like extreme circumstances, parents are involved.
So I'm going to ask a tough question here. Sorry, my questions are a little
I'll
tough.
try to-
Relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend. How do you deal with those kind of interactions,
Well, a lot of my work is pretty much just substance abuse related and alcohol related. So I will refer relationship issues to guidance or the social workers.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not seeing things like that on a daily basis. So it's pretty much just seeing if the relationship is extremely unhealthy, things going into the relationship that might potentially be negative, and then just referring out to Catholic Charities, social workers, or guidance.
I'm good. Yeah, go ahead.
Talking about being confidential. Sometimes a lot of the substance abuse cause might be family issues, divorce, new child, or something else going in the home. At that point, do you try to call in the family? Do you recommend outside resources like a family therapist and such?
Yeah, definitely. So if I notice that a student is, using substances based on family issues, things that they have going on, that's definitely a full family conversation that we would have together.
Yes.
Getting back to trying to explain to a kid why substance abuse in any form is no good, and you were saying is a behavior that they want to change. You were saying you would just describe, the negative impact, but that seems rather simplistic. No offense, like if it were that easy, nobody would be addicted. You would just say, hey, this is going to ruin your future. So I gotta assume that there's more to it, or that it's multiple conversations.
Yeah, definitely. So if a student is using, and they are someone that I am seeing on a weekly basis, we'll run through programs that are sometimes 12 sessions. We really dig deep into our core values, things that we want to see ourselves doing within the year or the next year. So when we talk about core values and goals, that will kind of limit the use because they're realizing what they want to become.
How often is that successful?
Pretty much majority of the time.
And I think you put it on point. Sometimes it all depends on the person.
Right. So if the student is so severe and their addiction is very, very severe to the point where they're using all day long, then they're referred to outreach. They'll need inpatient, outpatient services, rehab, detox to kind of get them off the substance. I'm here in the school to kind of get them through their school days, but if it's a really severe circumstance, they'll be referred to outreach for inpatient or outpatient services.
I am not an expert on drugs. Not one. The only thing I see is the ones I see on TV, and I think it's great to have a resource like this to be able to say, you know what, I don't know this stuff, just like raising children. Do we all know how to raise children? No, trial and error.
Right. And, my role here is pretty much prevention and gearing out-risk students to where they need to be in terms of services. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a clinician. I'm just here to provide services to students that need it within, in terms of group therapy, and referring the most serious cases out to outreach with specific contacts there.
Okay, my last question. Yeah, last question or one more question? Come on. All right, my last question is, so, should we keep our teenagers busy? Should they have a job? Should they have, be in school, do sports, do curricular activity? Should that be a focus for us as
Yeah.
parents?
Definitely. As parents, keeping your kids as active as possible will keep them off the streets and keep them engaged and not wanting to do drugs. Like we were talking about before, we have sports clubs here at the school. If a student has interest in a club, they can create that club. They can come to us as counselors and we can gather students to see if there's an interest. There's always ways to keep students on the right path, and clubs and sports is definitely the main thing that they need to be involved in, especially because they're busy after school. They're not sitting home alone, thinking about ways to keep busy, because being lonely is another reason that students will use. So keeping them involved is definitely huge for parent involvement.
Can I add to that? Sorry, I know Mr. Packer might still be around.
No, he left.
So they're both coaches as well. Let's say your kid did not want to be or couldn't be in an active sport. They have several managers per team. So that's another way kids are involved. Do I see this helps the kids? Yeah, and they have friends on the teams. Also, it does help their college application to be on the team, even as a manager. There's a lot of different skills involved that they build up by doing that.
Excellent.
Are they happier? Yes. If a kid's giving me trouble in school and I know they're on a team and they don't fix it themselves, I'm going to go to their coach. They've got to keep up their grade point average on every one of those teams, which is what they would do in college as well.
Excellent.
So to me, it's such a win for the kids to be involved in these things.
Right. And, also we want to teach our teenagers and our growing adults, to be advocates of themselves, making healthy decisions, making choices, and being, in charge of their lives. So that's another thing that we focus on within my groups, is that you have to take ownership for what you want to be in life. You can't just let your parents and your teachers do everything for you. You have to be held accountable for things and your actions and your choices.
Yeah, that includes coming on to school on time, and that's always a hard lesson to show to our kids. Sorry, my kid comes late to school. Please don't. It's a hard battle. Listen, Tara, you've been fantastic. I gotta tell you, thank you very much for the knowledge. Just the one point on the school sports thing, by the way, I sent an email out to the executive director at the PSAL to try to add more sports, more activities in the school, because I think at the end of the day, if we can save our kids through a sport, including ping pong or any other sport, I think it will be helpful. And again, just the message is Tara's here for you and your students that attend Maspeth High School. She provides the value of helping you guide through addiction, depression, any mental health issues. And I think Tara is right there for you. Please use these resources, just say, oh, this takes time. This takes problem. I don't want to cause a problem. I think if we don't cause a problem, then we're going to have a problem. There's one thing I've always learned. Problems don't get better with time. They just get worse. So with that note, I want to thanks again. Barbara, thank you for allowing this opportunity. Tara, thank you. And parents, thank you for asking the questions.
Okay. Thank you. You guys can gather the materials in the back for my services as well as athletes.
So again, Tara has some information on the back table. If you'd like to gather some information by the end of the meeting, please do that. Does anyone have anything new that they'd like to add? I know that there were children, I received emails and phone calls today regarding the metal detectors in school. I'm actually surprised that when I asked about new, no one raised their hand question about these. So this is something important. It's to increase safety in our school. It will be done randomly, I believe biannual. The administration does not get notification until within 24 hours. They are not allowed to alert faculty or students prior to the setup of the machines. So when your students arrived at school this morning, anytime after 7:15, there were approximately 20 school aides here with metal detectors, and the children were asked to go through. I mean, I think we all have the same sentiment that overall school is a particularly safe school. But I think that given the climate and things that are going on around our school, it's vitally important. Also, vapes and other particular devices can be picked up on metal detectors. So I feel that that is also a really valuable tool for us to use a couple of times a year to find out what's going on. I know today that there were some kids who lost keys, keychains, perfume bottles, glass bottles with water. Right now, those are the kind of things that are not allowed to be brought into school. Only because if they break their glass, they feel like they're dangerous to students. So if your child was stopped today to have a perfume bottle removed or a cosmetic bottle that was glass or a glass bottle, just encourage them to not bring those articles to school, because we won't know when the next random check will be. And it will keep them from being deterred the next time. Anyone have any questions? Any new business? Go ahead.
Metal detectors find anything substantial?
Meaning like a weapon or what? Not that I'm aware of. No weapons. But I mean, obviously, I feel like in the age of social media, so by like the third child that came in, I'm sure they were putting it all over the social media. So the idea of random is fabulous, but the idea that our kids put every single aspect of their life on social media also poses that problem too, because once it got out, I'm sure that kids that would have normally come to school carrying vaping devices or something could have gotten rid of them. But I feel that doing it randomly is actually, as a parent, I felt comfortable and I was glad that it happened. Again, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, change the subject. It's open floor.
When was the last time you voted that the ninth graders for them not to take the vegans? But my brother says that they still have to take it. It's not take it.
No, if they're not, Regents Week is coming. If your child does not have an appointment paper for a Regents, they don't have to, they're off from school that day. So if you have students who are taking, for example, geometry, the day that examination is being administered, they've been given an appointment ticket. And they're expected to be in school and at the appropriate time to take their examination. That they will be accountable for their attendance at their exam. Oh, no. It's you. If you're talking about the PSAT, is that what you're talking about? We did take a vote about the students that were not taking the free SAT provided by the Department of Education be given a day off. That's different. Does anyone have a question about testing, attendance? No. I want to stress again. Oh, go ahead. Sure.
You said we could send the baked goods in with the kids.
Yes.
What do we tell the kids to do with them?
They can give them to either Miss Koskinas or Miss Healy. You could just put on it, attention, homecoming dance, homecoming. Security knows who to notify to come and get it. I mean, they could leave it with security or they could give it to their teachers. I think it would be better off bringing it upstairs. They could even bring it to the office on the third floor. And at the office, they'll make sure that it gets to the student activities coordinators. I can't stress enough that today I see new faces. Every meeting, we see a couple of new faces, but if you came to the meeting today and you found it informative and you have dialogues or conversations with your students, friends, parents, invite them to come, because in a class, in a school of over 1,200 students, there are about 30 of us in this room. And I can tell you that we are the best of borough school for the best school spirit. Our children, they understand the value of this room, of this building. They get it. We hope that their parents will also be drawn in by their enthusiasm and their love of our building and our faculty and begin to participate on a greater level. Because it's a struggle for every wonderful event we have. It's very difficult to get parents to chaperone, to get parents to volunteer their time, to get parents to donate baked goods or drives for. We recently just did one for homeless veterans, asking for underwear and socks. It actually doesn't end till February 5th. So if you would like to make that donation, you can send that in to Miss Lara. But these are just examples. So although it's student school spirit week for our students. I ask you to just feed off their enthusiasm, see what we have to offer you here. I, for one, as a parent, I see it every day. To me, we were discussing it when we were walking through the hallways. When you walk through your child's school at 5:15 and you see smiling faces and children engaged in their school, that's when you know you made a good choice. Because I have a friend who taught at Bushwick High School who will tell you that at 3:15, you could hear a pin drop. So this is a place where your child is being encouraged to grow and mature, and they're learning far more than just what they learn in the classroom here. So I ask you to reach out to your friends who have students in this school, even family members, and ask them to please participate in the Parent-Teacher Association. Thank you so much for coming. Happy New Year. I look forward to seeing all of you again in February. Good night.